flag is here, no turning back. Will the robots lead, or will they lack? This is a trend we just can't miss. So let's chat about bots and beers and the biz.
Welcome to Bots, Beers, and the Biz, a discussion about the impact of artificial intelligence, challenges that are met inside business, and solutions that can be provided. I'm here with two of my best friends from the Los Angeles cohort of Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. On my left is
Skaar Saxena. I'm co-CEO of Cloud Consulting Services Incorporated. We're based out of Denver, Colorado. We do IT consulting for the public sector.
Thank you. And on my right, Arby Leon.
Yes. And I'm also based out of Los Angeles, and we do e-commerce, and we have a platform called Max E-commerce. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, part of the nomenclature here is the festivity you see in front of us, the beers. This should help liven up our discussion a little bit. So we each have 3 custom beers that are in front of us. Why don't you tell us about the one you got there, Skaar?
Yeah, so right here we have a stout. It's a stone inspired by Mexican hot chocolate. So, brewed with chocolate, coffee, a variety of different things. So I'll take a little pour out while you guys describe.
Yeah, that one's a special release, I recall, that that Stone put out. Look at that color. Beautiful.
Ooh la la.
Hey, leave some for us, man.
I was going for half. There we go.
Ooh, it's got nice color. Look at that good head.
Right here.
Nice.
All right.
Should go for a sip first.
Yeah.
That is really good. Wow.
What makes it good?
Well, I think it's more coffee than chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
But that coffee flavor really drowns out or changes the bitterness of a normal beer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's bitter like a normal stout normally is, but the coffee it's more of a coffee taste. And
Yeah.
if you're a coffee drinker, I drink a lot of coffee, so this is perfect.
I saw there's a little bit of vanilla in there too, so it's probably mellowing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
Sweet.
great.
Hats off to Stone. Can't wait to try that one. What do you got there?
I got the triple Belgium.
Ooh. Triple.
Yeah.
3 times through the process.
Right. So let's see how this is going to pan out.
2.5 times the alcohol, I bet.
Right.
Is there a warning label on that thing?
Can I read it after?
Don't need
All
to
right.
worry about that right now.
Yeah. That's pretty nice.
Yep.
Huh?
A little less of a head than his.
Yep. Didn't do it justice, but cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Ooh la la.
What is it?
This is good.
Yeah? What makes it good?
It's rich. It tastes like a Belgian, but with oomph,
Like a lot of depth to it.
depth to it.
Can you taste the monks making it down in the depths of the abbey?
Yep. That's it. No, it's pure.
Here. All right. Well, I think it's your turn.
It's my turn. So I am pouring Brother Thelonious. This is a Belgian-style amber ale. It's made by North Coast Brewing here in California, Fort Bragg. And check out this color.
Wow.
It's like an amber.
Yeah. Is that why it's called amber?
Boy, nothing gets by you, man. All right.
Oh,
Look at that.
That is a very
That's
unique
a
color.
nice-
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's awesome and red. I think this has the best of both worlds. I taste it way back on the back of my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the bitterness on the side, but it's got the kind of the grain. You can really taste the grain, and it's got a hair of sugar to it.
Okay.
So it kind of all balances out very nicely.
It's great.
Cheers, my beers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers, my peers.
Well played. So that's the beers portion. We're going to keep sipping on that to keep this conversation lively. We wanted to talk also, of course, about the bots, AI. So I'd like you to, if you have customers whose business has been severely disrupted by AI, raise your glass.
Severely disrupted.
Okay, not severely.
No.
So, I mean, I can go like take on this a little bit, like, because like I work with the public sector, the public sector technology is just always behind.
Yes.
So they're not even really thinking about AI at this point. Obviously, they're implementing, you know, the basic forms of AI, like, you know, automated calendars, you know, things like that. But in terms of severe disruption, it hasn't truly affected yet, especially because I know we'll just discuss this later, but there's a lot of issues still with AI in terms of, you know, data privacy and things like that.
Yes.
So in the public sector, hasn't been a severe disruption, though I do imagine in the next few years, once they catch up, it will be more of a all hands on deck to try to implement.
I was working with a federally funded research center that supports NASA, and right when ChatGPT came on the scene, there was an email that came out from the director who said basically, stop putting content into ChatGPT. It's not safe, and you don't know kind of where it's going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's being used to train other models. But really, that's our IP. That's our data. So stop what you're doing and figure out another solution for it. So I think that's enough to say that in the government space, it's the elephant in the room.
I mean, the biggest importance for government is making sure their data is protected. I mean, that's why they don't allow offshore work, or like most offshore work. Like, that is their number one like baseline, is making sure our cybersecurity is set, our data is protected, their data is protected. And it makes sense, obviously, but that's going to be the biggest challenge for AI to fully be adapted in the public sector, is to, you know, figure out these issues that are currently there.
Which is going to lead us later into a whole discussion about responsible AI.
Absolutely.
We're going to get there. Don't worry about it. But for right now. So none of your customers have seen a lot of impact from it?
No, it seems like it's more of a business panic that's, you know, got them worried. Oh, how can we implement AI? You know, our clients normally will try to get venture, you know, capital. So they know that's where the money is. So they're just like, oh, how can we implement AI? How can we implement AI? That's just all they constantly think of. And so, which is good in a way, because then it could, you know, reduce costs and provide other areas of opportunity. But at the same time, I think that they're just too fixated on AI.
Yeah.
And it's reminding me of the boom that happened back in the .com boom that happened in 2000.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
where everybody wanted a website, let's say, for instance. And if you had a website, then that meant that your business is, you know, going to bank, you know. But there's lots of layers to go through, you know. Some companies don't even have adequate data, right? So garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't have any data, then, you know, really you don't have much room for AI implementation. But I think it's good. It's a place that a lot of people are thinking how they can do things and how they can improve. I have one client that has thousands upon thousands of records that they manually go through, and that is perfect setting for AI.
So I got 3 questions for you off of that. The first one is, who are your customers? They're mostly in e-commerce.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So any business that's selling products online. And so if you have adequate data, customer data, patterns, and, you know, purchases, clicks, and this and that, then you have a layer that data could, that AI could be introduced, and then you have pattern recognition, you have upsell opportunities with AI, right?
Yep.
So there are lots of cool things that you could do with AI, identifying what products are selling more when, there's a lot of that happening. But again, you need to have adequate data. If you have, 500 customers, that's not enough.
And that leads me to my second question, which is, data quality is and data volume seem to be tantamount to making AI work, right? That's the whole point. It can read through a lot of information. But are companies really are they ensuring that they have the quality of their data to make AI work the way they want it to?
I think the quality is there. I mean, obviously everyone believes their data is quality, like whatever process they have currently, right? They use that data to inform their decisions for the future. So they believe their data is quality. I think it's more, what AI model you're using. Now, I mean, there's obviously a bunch of different ones out there. So, potentially you could choose one, it gives you a different result than another. So that's also something that companies are also looking at. I think in terms of quality, everyone believes their own data is good quality. Whether that's actually true or not, up to debate. But in terms of and then quantity too. I think people don't realize that quantity is also a really important factor.
Right.
Like a lot of small businesses are like talking about, how do we implement AI, things like that. And it's just like, you guys probably aren't even at the stage where you need to. You don't have that many clients. You don't have that much, sales, which is totally okay. It's all a process, but like you said, quantity and quality. And they may have quality data, but they don't have quantity. So
Right.
I think the biggest disconnect is a lot of companies think they have both, but they might be lacking on one.
Right.
And they don't know how they're lacking.
Yes.
But Eris did a survey of enterprises utilizing their platform. And what they found is about 70% of their customers have data quality concerns. Data is missing. Data is duplicated. Data is stale.
Right.
It's just been around for too long, and nobody's been managing this because everybody's just been kind of loading everything, putting everything up, and everybody's following different processes in that, and nobody's going back through it, and nobody's applying retention policies or any type of governance. Not that they're not doing any governance, but governance is usually a step behind, and I think that people don't understand how not ready they are if they don't have those policies in place.
we're transitioning internally. We're trying to implement a lot of AI features and internal softwares and programs, and we're experiencing that, right? Like I was saying that because, internally we have a lot of data, things like that. We're putting it all in, but, we have things in multiple locations. We have data that's maybe incomplete. There's we have a list of contracts, but it may be 5 years old. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to, as we're going through this, because we have to do it manually to ensure that everything's correct. So this initial stage has been, very grueling and in the trenches, because once you get it done, you set the right processes and, like you said, governance set up, then it's fine. But at the initial stages, when you're actually cleaning out your data, it's just a manual, grueling process that, takes some time.
Because most companies, up till now, it's just been the wild, wild west. And there's, I deal mostly with Microsoft 365. So it's there's teams all over the place. It's sprawled. There's too many SharePoint sites, and documents are copied from one place to another, and it just becomes a mess. And who wants to spend their time on a Monday morning going back through all of these things and cleaning up these one by one?
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
So what do you advise your customers to do?
You have to just start now, bite the bullet and just start now. Start going through your data, and when you recognize there's an inconsistency, whether it's, there's multiple SharePoint sites where we're uploading different things, consolidate that and then create a process and form the team. If there's incomplete information, figure out why that is, and plug that hole. Like basically just start going through your data, and every time you come up with a problem or something that's missing, figure out why that happened and create a process so that it doesn't happen again. It's just biting the bullet and starting. I mean, that's a lot of things. It's just you have to start, and people are scared too. So,
Well, I feel people want to get to AI. They're not ready to get there.
Right.
So it's almost like, okay, let's back up. Baby steps.
Right.
Step 1, create your policies. Step 2, start enforcing them. Go back through everything. Fine tooth comb. Delete the stuff that's out of there. Get people used to the idea of deleting stuff that they haven't used in 5 years, but just still hold on to, because those files are really important to me. I can't let them go.
Right. Right. I think it's also important for us to recognize whether or not our data will be timeless or it's trendy. Like for instance, in e-commerce, the trends shift every 90 days. So after 90 days, that data is no longer, good. It provides information, historical, for forecasting and whatnot, but you can't really rely on it, right? So there are lots of shifts, and so your data is good for 90 days. For us, one of the things that we need to do is say, okay, what are we expecting AI to do? Right. Identifying that layer first, and then say, what kind of data would we need in order to have that, take place? And so then go into the whatever data we have and identify what's missing, what's extra.
yeah.
Do we need to change anything? Should we leave it the way it is? And then once that's done, then we go into, okay, now here's our policy, here's what we're going to do. And then you go down to the layers that you just mentioned. So from industry to industry also, there's going to be changes. One of the things that we've been talking about is chat. That's one area that, your data, you can use, as long as you have data, you can use it and plug it in. And that actually will be beneficial because your AI can go through as much data as possible, especially if you have a smaller audience, right? Smaller business. Then the longer history you have, then the more accurate your chatbot is going to work. Yeah. And so that's one area that we see, a lot of relevance and relatively easy to get in because chat is chat, Yeah. So it's text pretty much.
And I always feel that chat between people is full of so much noise.
Right.
Hey, where do you want to go for lunch today? Oh, no, we went there last week. Let's try someplace else. It's just full of so much crap.
Right.
Yep.
So how do you apply quality standards to chat when there's just so much of it?
One of the things we were trying to identify is what are some key indicators, right, for a quality or a pain or something like that. So one of the things that we've done in our data is we have this extra layer that a customer service rep will just click as, insightful, positive or negative. So we have some sort of importance score to attach to a specific line of question or communication. So that's been one area that we've already implemented, even though we don't have an AI layer introduced yet. But that was one area that we're like, okay, if AI were to go through this, how would it know what's good, what's junk, so to speak?
Keep all the thumbs up
Right.
and all the hearts.
Right.
And
or really be careful of the thumbs down because there's a pain point. So, we need to address this, and how do we address this, And so, that's been helpful at least.
So this now comes to the third question that I was going to ask you, and I'll throw it out to you too, which is it becomes really important for a business to imagine what they want to do with AI. So that's like a 4-step process. First, you have to understand what AI is, how it works, what it can do. Then you can start envisioning what is possible with it. and how you can start utilizing your data to better drive customers through your process and back through the funnel again.
Right.
What are the then major functions you see AI performing when you envision your own business or you help your customers talk about where they want to go?
Mm-hmm. So we had an interesting client just approach us. Well, I should say prospect, where they're not a client yet. But one of the areas that we find opportunity for AI to optimize is in their operations. So order processing, which warehouse gets to send out the unit. If you have 3 different warehouses spread out through the U.S., which one is the closest? What shipping carrier should you use? So these are things that are time consuming for, somebody, and obviously the business is paying for. But that's an area where AI could start looking at the rates historically, could see what the transaction time has been, sorry, not the transaction, but the transit time. Mm. And then based on those, you might have a closer, let's say, warehouse, but the route to get to the customer might not be as straightforward. So you might have a warehouse that has a straight, route directly to the customer, and AI could pick that up and then, just process that order from that warehouse. So that's one area that we've seen aside from, let's say, chat.
Yeah, operations intrigues me too. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, in general, for us, it's just internal operations that we're seeing a lot of, AI start coming in. Specifically, like we said, chat, but just making mundane recruitment tasks simpler. Scheduling. There's also now you can do initial phone screenings through AI. What's your background, things like that can be done through AI now. You don't need a recruiter on that. So what we're seeing is a lot of the recruitment, service side of the business where, formatting resumes or adapting resumes to the specific job or matching a candidate to a job, different things like that. A lot of the service side of the recruitment is being not phased out, but adapted. So that's, in our industry, is something that we're trying to, figure out is the future going to be no recruiters at all? Is it just going to be all AI? And I mean, it's starting to be that way where, some companies are having, just you call and it's an AI person talking back to you and you don't even know. Obviously, it's the initial stages, so you do know because it's not perfect. But I mean, as they perfect this AI technology in the next few years, that's kind of where the path is going. So we're trying to, figure out what exactly, how we are going to adapt and figure out, do we keep our recruiters? I mean, obviously we probably will because there's a lot of intangible benefits, but it's very interesting to see how it's affecting our industry. So
I see a collision, the amalgamation of services and operations. Those are the two that kind of intrigue me the most. It's funny that you guys brought that up. Here's some more data that came from Eris in their survey. So 84% of their respondents expect AI to enhance services, but many face challenges like capacity bottlenecks. That was 79% of them. 77% have problems with a lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And 75% were reliant on isolated IT applications that were off in the ether and weren't plugged into where AI could actually start utilizing that data or incorporating that service.
Right.
How would you solve some of those challenges?
Let's take maybe incorporating into your internal systems. I mean, that's almost not up to you to a certain point. It's up to whatever systems you have, right? Mm-hmm. If they don't allow whatever APIs or anything like that, then you can't even do really anything about it, and it has to be a separate entity. So really, it's just about, at least in that specific point, it's about finding the right program for you. I think there's a lot of AI programs coming out. There will be a lot more AI programs coming out in the future. And so, I mean, it's just like with any other service or any other software. You have to do your research and find the one that incorporates into your internal softwares and can actually make a cohesive unit.
Right. And I think it provides opportunity for software companies to provide, licensed products that are private. So they are not out on the internet, but they're internal. And so I think that's an area that we'll see a major growth. As you know, over the years, we've kind of moved towards that cloud, but I see a kind of a small shift coming back to, localized, AI layers and, processes, so that you kind of mitigate some of that data privacy, making sure that you know where it's going, it stays within, it's confined, it doesn't find its way out, to someone else.
So we've touched on data, we've touched on envisioning. What else are the key kind of steps for getting AI ready?
I think another big thing for people that want to implement AI is, for a lot of people at least, because a lot of people aren't technologically savvy. So they hear these AI headlines and, they may read an article or two about, what it can do, but I don't think they truly understand what AI does. And we touched on this earlier, but they're like, oh, we need to implement it without actually knowing anything, right? Without actually knowing how they can use it for their business. They just hear the AI headline and like, oh, we need that for our business. They know it's the future, but they're just like, oh, we need that. They don't know why, they don't know how, nothing of that. So I think a lot of it's just education, right? I mean, it's tough, but I mean, if you don't know what you're trying to implement into your business, then I mean, it's not going to succeed. So I think a big point is too, also like, if a business owner that wants to do it or clients, they need to be educated on what they want with AI. And if it's a client, then that's our job to make sure that they understand what their wants and needs are. But if it's just another random business owner, it's their own personal job to research what AI can do and how it can help your business. And not all the time it can help your business. Sometimes you may not be ready. So, it's just a lot of it, just ignorance.
Yeah. I think that this is one of the major gaps that business underestimates, how important education is, how important training is, because what I have been reading is if AI is going to be taking up all the manual work so that I can refocus my time on the more important tasks, then these menial tasks, this manual work I do, becomes obsolete over time. And there is an estimate that in 5 years, half of the tasks you do today, half of the skills that you have will be obsolete because AI will be performing them for you.
Right.
Yeah, I've actually saw TikTok. It was a joke, but it was talking about how a coworker was watching another coworker basically just automate her job away. She started using ChatGPT to, send emails, and then some calendar, like AI software to do that. And like, she slowly, like all those menial tasks, but that was her job, slowly, like just use AI. And it's basically, she's just automating her job away. And people don't realize that. And so that's also going to be something like half these tasks are going to be gone, but then also that affects a lot of people that are employed with these tasks.
Right.
Huge ramifications.
Yep.
And I think people it's starting to sink in a little bit that what we're facing is a paradigm shift to where, you know what, I haven't had to go back in the classroom for the last 10 years just because I've been doing my thing. But now I'm going to have to go back in, or if I'm lucky enough to be employed by a business that invests in me going back into the classroom, even if it's 2 hours a week every Friday, just to be learning about what it is, how to use it, best practices, and then reskilling myself for the important tasks that's starting to work. It's starting to make an impact on people. And that means that you're going to have to have everybody invested in that process. The employees, the businesses, the education system, government, and yet we can't even get Congress to agree on the basics of it.
I mean, if you think the public sector is bad, then you just go to Congress and you realize how even more out of touch that is. So
I'll drink to that.
yeah, it's all about education. I mean, and the problem too is a lot of things out there, a lot of information out there is just like very watered down or, basic level, which is understandable if you want to make sure the masses understand it. But it doesn't allow for the full scope of what AI can do. And it doesn't allow for people to really overestimate or overstate the risks that AI can bring to the job market and everything like that. So,
right.
like, I know a lot of people, say like, oh, this is a paradigm shift, self-driving trucks, things like that. It's going to cause a lot of job loss. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't really believe that. And I think it's due to the fact that a lot of information out there is just very watered down.
Right. And I think the job loss is more on the, repeated processes, not so much on the quality control,
Yes.
not so much of what this means, right? And I think that's where the education part comes in from the employee's side, that, okay, I used to do this manual work, but I don't need to do that because there is an easier way. But I still need to manage that process and to ensure that there is quality and there is, consistency and, that we're not feeding garbage in and getting garbage out. Because I believe that AI will magnify whatever you have. So if you have a bad structure foundation, AI will all of a sudden 10x it, right? Or maybe 100x it, right? Depending on how aggressive a business wants to be. And then so you can go down almost instantly, right? Can you imagine? Right. And so I think that's another thing that again, I go back to the boom, the .com boom, is that people just jumping the gun without having adequate information, education, and knowing where they should apply, where they shouldn't apply, right? And whether or not an industry is ready for it or not. So one of the areas I've seen, for instance, in fast food, McDonald's pulled all their, registered employees, right? Cash register employees. And they have these kiosks that, basically a customer will go and pick. Not a lot of AI, but that's still in that process, right? But customers are turned off by that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into a fast food and deal with a, screen. That's the place where I want to go for human interaction because that's just my food, My mom used to cook and put food in front of me,
Yeah.
So that's the association I have. And I don't want that replaced with just some sort of an AI automation type of a thing. I'm sure that's coming. But that's already one place that I think some companies are, just jumping the gun on. Of course, I'm sure it's saving them tremendously, but I like that human interaction. I love going into In-N-Out and seeing somebody give me a big smile and saying, here's your double, versus me going and ordering pancake for my kid on a kiosk at McDonald's in the morning, Sunday morning,
So you have now this interesting dichotomy of what the business wants to do and yet still responsible for serving its customers. This is that service angle. And there are positive examples of how to do both.
Yep.
Right.
One that I think of is Ikea back in 2021 launched Billy, which was their customer inquiry chatbot.
Okay.
So when you wanted to know, hey, where's my shipment? Or I was charged wrong and I need a refund or whatever it was. But all these customer inquiries that were formerly handled by agents were now going to this bot.
Yeah.
So Ikea had a choice to make. What they did is they chose to actually reinvest back into their people. So yes, while we no longer have to have so many of these customer service agents, reps, on the phone answering questions, they reskilled them. They turned them into interior design consultants who could work with their customers to provide personalized recommendations on what type of furniture and how to fit it in the room and colors and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's great. I did not know that. That's great.
So they took 8,500 employees, reskilled them into these consultants, kept their workforce, but still managed to automate a lot of their customer inquiries. And in 2022, they made 1.4 billion with a B incremental revenue.
Wow.
So you can do both.
Yeah.
There are examples out of that. How do you direct your customers, or what best practices would you point your customers to think about that down the road and prepare for it?
My advice to all of our clients, and we're taking our own advice, is, really think this through. Really think this through. Get as much exposure and education as possible. Look into case studies from all sorts of industries, before you jump the gun, and getting all hoo-hoo-ha-ha over AI. Just look at what's there, what's implemented. AI is nothing new.
True.
Yeah.
AI is nothing new. Our navigation system is an AI.
That's what got you here today.
Right. So Air Force One has an autopilot. As a matter of fact, any airplane has an autopilot. That's AI. You have coordinates, you have data, and then so it's able to navigate. And it catches the weather, understands all these circumstances and this and that. So autonomous, automated driving flying for airplanes. Now, so it's nothing new. You just need to study everything as much as possible, expose yourself, and then find parallels where you can apply something to your specific business. And so that's my recommendation, and I try to stick to that myself, even though there is a lot of money for us to, tap into with VC around AI. Just because I have AI doesn't mean anything, really,
Not anymore.
Right.
Everybody's
Right.
got it.
Yeah,
Right.
not anymore.
Right. And if anything, in the beginning, it might be a huge money dump, right? And I still don't know how it's going to perform or what the results are going to be. So my advice to myself is that take it slow. Get your radars all up and read and expose yourself as much as possible, and then find parallels where you can apply based on proven track record rather than jumping out of an airplane.
Same with you?
Yeah, sort of. I would say tangentially, yeah, don't be narrow-minded. Make sure you look at it wholly, but remember that I think there's been a shift back towards human interaction. People, like you said, you want to go to McDonald's, you want to talk to people, that service part too. People want to talk to people. These chat bots, service chat bots, almost all the time I try to just go to the fastest option to get an actual person.
Right.
So a lot of companies just look for cost saving measures, but don't realize that there's still a human element that needs to be implemented. So don't look at it as a narrow-minded thing of just trying to save money. Look at your local business as a holistic thing and realize, where is the trend going? I know it's going back a little bit more towards human interaction, but I know there's still a split about, some people just being quick and easy, transactional, don't have to talk to anyone. But there's been a lot more, especially as more and more AI comes out. And since it's not perfect, a lot of people are turned off by it and they want human interaction. So make sure, like I said, educate, and then, ensure that you still have that some sort of human interaction part in your business, because that will always be there and always be important. I mean, even just in employment, I know there's a big debate about work from home and, office, but as much as I like work from home, there's validity to office in terms of human interaction. So it's all about just, a balance and making sure that just because you want to save costs, you don't ruin the rest of your, service side.
So as companies are preparing their human interaction and to plan for reinvesting into that as AI takes up more of the menial. They also should be planning the human component as they proceed forward. So as you say, stop and think this thing through, plan it out. Microsoft has a framework that, as they're taking Copilot for Microsoft 365 and all of its variations to market, they have 3 tracks. And that first track is technical. So make sure that all your data is in place. Make sure that your policies, your procedures are tight. Security, which can be a whole conversation of its own, is in place. But like, go back and close the loopholes that you've been kind of pushing off on your roadmap down the road, because you need to close them up now to be AI ready. So run your technical track. And then at the same time, start running a human track, or the change management component of it. And that is educating your people, investing in a learning culture so that they have time to deepen their understanding of AI capabilities, how to employ it in their daily workflows. And there's a whole track for that. And then there's a third track that I haven't heard mentioned yet today, which is leadership. So leadership is the one that has to understand the gravity of what's happening today.
Yeah.
They have to take responsibility for leading this process, even if they're not the ones in the room envisioning the future.
Yeah.
They're making sure the right people are in the room to envision that future.
Yeah.
Microsoft recommends what they call an AI council, or a steering committee of sorts, so that they are going to usher this process through, and they are going to lay down that plan, ensure that it's driven and accomplished, so that those plans you're pointing them to, Arby, get implemented in time and laid in. So, okay, we're gonna spend Q3 on this really heavy. Oh shit, it's already Q3.
Right.
Yeah.
Time
like-
flies.
I was actually thinking, just now, a new sort of vertical for consulting companies, IT companies, is going to be data consulting, AI consulting. Like we talked earlier about quality, quantity data, right? But businesses don't know. I bet there'll be consulting companies out there that can look at your data and tell you what you need to do. And then AI consulting, like you said, AI council, making sure the entire team is ready. Because like I said, there's also a lot of fear mongering with AI. So a leader needs to be able to assure his employees that, yes, we're implementing AI, that won't affect you. Or if it does affect you, don't worry.
It's going to affect them.
I'm talking more employment-wise.
Yes.
So, it won't, don't worry, you're still, assurance there. Or if it is going to affect them, say, we got you, like you said, the Ikea thing where they, train them for something else, or, it has to be transparent.
Has to be transparent.
Right. Yeah.
You have to have leadership saying, we know there's a lot of misinformation out there. We know you are scared. Guess what? We're going to go through this change, but we're going to go through it together.
Right.
Here is our intention for reskilling you. And that's why we're creating this learning culture. That's why we're giving you 2 hours every Friday to learn these new tools.
Right. Businesses always run after profit. So,
Sure.
And that could be a pitfall. Yes, AI could cut down your workforce and save you money. Who doesn't like saving money, increase their profitability? But again, it's planning, knowing, and understanding everything about AI before, doing something where, it's going to take you down. And one thing, actually, you guys kind of touched on in regards to HR. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we plan on doing with HR is that we're taking all of our resumes and our scorecards during the interview, putting them into a database, and then inputting also our evaluations into the database to identify our top performers and where where things are going south. And that's for that we want to introduce a layer of AI to go through that data and then identify models, patterns, and so on. So that's another area where AI will be utilized for sure. Just like you were saying during interviewing process, AI could cut down a lot of the things. But all of this comes down to one thing I firmly believe. I think AI will be best utilized now. I don't know what the future will hold, but for now, I think AI, any place we can enhance human interaction, that is where AI will be best utilized, rather than removing human interaction, but improving human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know how I can improve it?
Yes, sir.
Wall-E.
Ah,
Remember the little robot?
yes.
Okay. And that ship that was off in space? Like AI was doing, and robots were doing all the other work so that people could, their domain expertise, their approach, their human interaction and touch, that's the stuff it can't replicate.
Right.
But it can certainly do everything else. So we're going to be offloading these things. Our job functions will change. Our job roles will change. The descriptions in your database are going to change. And with that means that the context with which we interact with each other in the job place are going to undergo change too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a functional identity that gets shifted through this process.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I actually really agree with what Arby said. Like, it's about magnifying, the human interaction there, and it's there. I actually want to pivot real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just to talk about something that Arby brought up about HR, and that's actually something that is of a concern within the recruiting space, is using AI for these resume screenings and things like that, because there's a lot of, and there's been studies on this, inherent biases, like subconscious biases that come out, like racial, gender biases,
Right.
that get programmed into these AI by accident.
Oh, wow.
And so that's something that a lot of companies, especially like recruiting companies, are worried about. I forgot the exact statistics, but it was over 50% of companies that they interviewed, or HR managers they interviewed, are worried about AI with bias, because you already know, like, there's already biases out there, right? Subconscious bias. And if you tell, you feed the information in, like, oh, this person is good, this person's bad, over time the data you give could slowly unveil your subconscious bias. So that's something that just need to be a little careful about. And that's one of the, again, another problem alongside the data stuff, is these subconscious biases that might come out and create, issues.
So we've been dancing around responsible AI for a bit now.
Yep.
Before we do that, I'd like to take a cue from you, Skaar, where you said, let's pivot. I'd like to pivot our beers. Which one of these two do you want to try?
I would love to try the
Le Fin du Monde?
Yes.
Ah,
Okay.
I
it's
left a little
yours.
bit.
Well, which one do you want to try?
Let's go with Scars.
You want? Well, then I'm stuck with. Okay.
No, okay, give me yours. Give me yours. Give me yours.
No, go ahead.
No, give me yours.
You want this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just do
My
a
glass
little,
was empty, so I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do a little train.
Okay. Now we can get to responsible AI. So, what is responsible AI? Why is it important to your customers? Why have they been operating in a vacuum of fear and misinformation about it? Thank you, Hollywood. And how do you turn them to go the right direction?
Honestly, I think that it's very new. There is no real, time will tell. So we don't know. A lot of the things we don't know. You touched on a great thing, with biases. Yeah. We don't know where our biases are.
Haven't had to think about them yet.
We haven't had to think about them. And guess what? Those biases will, I'll call it junk, junk in, junk
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It'll magnify our biases. And when will we realize that, oh, these are biases magnified? So at least preaching to myself is, take it slow. Go to the places where there are no biases. It's more of formulated tasks, formulated, processes. It's not so much of human judgment, right? And allow time to identify where our pitfalls are as human beings so that we don't, get this massive explosion through AI.
I think for my end, one thing, recommendation, at least, especially in this, I mean, AI is not new, but I mean, this boom is new, right? So there's a lot of new AI technology. I think you still have to have quality control on your AI. Just take ChatGPT, for example, right? If you have it write your email, you still look through it, make sure everything's correct and, all that is sound before you send it. I think the same should go for any program you use. Just, you still have to have quality control, make sure that, it's performing the correct way. And I mean, as much as you can try to identify biases, I mean, it's tough, but basically you just try to limit any of these problems that can occur. But at least in like the short term and probably long term even too, like no matter what, you're gonna have to have quality control on AI to ensure that you are using it responsibly and that it's correct. Because even right now, ChatGPT, a lot of it can be like misinformation still.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest, piece of advice I can give right now is that whether it's one person you have on staff, just, check everything or whatever, but, just quality control anything you use for AI, ensure that your information you're getting is correct, and as much as you can, check for biases.
These are all investments that businesses were not ready to put into place when they were like, yes, I'm ready for AI. Let's go.
Well, I mean, these were all things that I guess they didn't know about, right? Like the AI in the past was all very basic, it was just something you had. You didn't even know it was AI.
Right.
And then now that, it's become mainstream per se, and businesses are like, oh, I got to be the first to have AI in my industry, blah, blah, blah. Now we're seeing sort of the start of the problems, and it's just going to percolate even more. So,
And the problems go all the way to the top. So I'm going to throw out a supposition to you. You're not a fine-looking business owner in Los Angeles or Denver. You are a senator from your respective state in the federal capital. And you have the power to ensure that AI applies transparency and fairness and equity. I was on a panel last week with the Southeast Los Angeles Workforce Development Board, and with Microsoft was at the table, and local high schools and the local community college. Everybody was invested, and the questions kept coming back to fairness. Who owns this information? Who owns these processes? How can we be sure that when I'm talking to people entering the workforce, that they have a place? What would you do with your power as a senator to ensure all of that?
That's a starting point, to think about those things. How do we keep it fair? What is the outcome we're expecting? And how does it look, once implemented? So more of the research part of it is what we're faced with, I would believe. And so if I were a senator, I probably would dedicate more fund to research, to identifying pitfalls, to identifying challenges, to identifying, highlighting, the positives, the areas that, we're confident in, and the areas that we're not so sure about. And so I think that, again, I couldn't right away make any decisions other than saying, okay, let's just allocate funds for research rather than development.
I agree with you 100%. It boggles my mind that we are letting these technologies run with no guardrails, and everything points to we need more research. We need more information before
Right.
we implement, and yet it's already happening.
Right. Like a wildfire.
I mean, I wish more, Congress people did this, but talk to the experts, like specifically, like you said, research. I mean, there's the practical side, but research for this AI in general and the math behind it has been going on for decades. Talk to these researchers, right? See what they have to say about, transparency and fairness and all this types of stuff. And also, like, if needed, like, I know there was a whole thing, Apple released their AI, I forgot what it's called, and then Elon Musk was like, oh, you're not allowed to use that in Tesla because of who knows about data and stuff like that. Right. Regardless of that, it's just like, okay, maybe if this is such a problem with data privacy, fairness, transparency, maybe open source, right? Have the code be open source. Now, obviously, there comes IP issues and all those stuff, and I get that. But at a certain point, and I agree with you, Arby, about just research and just in general listening to, experts in general. But if you need a short-term solution, in transparency, I mean, that's the only fairest way is usually open source. So I don't actually agree that's the way to go, but if you wanted just a easy, quick solution, just an easy, quick solution, you just open source all the code for any AI models, any that, especially large scale ones like that Apple's doing and Google and all that, and you can see if it's truly fair or not.
So we know that Senate and the House of Representatives won't be fixing this anytime soon.
No, they're always far behind.
Which is another thing to drink about. Right. Let's take it back again to the perspective of your customer. As a business owner, designing your outcomes and your plan to implement become tantamount. That's the key. So I've seen a lot of businesses kind of fall into three buckets. Mm-hmm. The first one is, oh, crap, AI's here. Let me buy a couple licenses for this one and let a couple people kind of play around with it. And they're going to experiment with it. So they're in the experiment phase.
Right.
And then the second bucket is, all right, we've been experimenting. Let's get serious. Let's actually assign some specific cases to this, use cases, and start seeing how we can apply it to our processes, our workflows, and assign to those key performance indicators. So we can measure what the difference is between before and after and refine what that is. So they're kind of in that, I'll call it a pilot phase.
Yeah.
And then there are those businesses that have been through these two and the majority of them are very large, like enterprises, not so much in mid-market and very few in small business that have actually been through the pilot and are applying those workflows, utilizing AI in their environment and driving outcomes from it. How do you think that your customers can work their way through phase 1 to get to phase 2? And how do you steer them that way?
I really believe, again, goes back to data. Do you have data? Do you have the adequate amount of data? Do you have the quality data that you need? And so I think it just boils down to that. And I honestly, I'm a firm believer that eventually we're going to get to a place where we'll have benchmark data to signal for, let's say, smaller businesses. Because for smaller businesses, I don't think that it's tangible enough. statistically insignificant, so to speak. And so I think that, but then there is another complication that is introduced, right? Which is data privacy. So who gets to, collect the benchmark, own the benchmark, and how do you control that? How do you ensure that it's safe and secure? And so I think there's just multiple layers, but if we had a mid-market plus a client, we would again just start from the data, understanding what is collected, if they're ready or not, and then start from there, if that makes sense.
Sure. Data wrapped with security. Yes.
Privacy. Right. Fairness.
Create guidelines now.
Right.
With your leadership, steering committee, AI council.
Right.
So that you can get them in and working. Get rid of all your bad data. Prepare for the next wave. Go ahead and start experimenting.
Right.
And then get serious.
Right.
So get everything in line so that you can actually prepare yourself for a pilot. Isn't that funny? Usually pilots are the ones that are like, but no. Like, do your homework.
Right.
Close the gaps. Check the boxes on your systems, on your environment.
Right.
Apply sensitivity labels and policies to make everything ready, then pilot before you can go to town.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love it took us a little bit together, but I think there's a big distinction between a large market and mid-market and small market in AI. Large market, any of these worries that we have, right, they don't care. They don't have to care, right? They're billions of dollars worth of, their company's worth billions of dollars. Obviously, their security is going to be top notch. And then, they don't have to care about all this stuff. I feel like this conversation is more geared in terms of mid-market and small businesses. And with that, I totally agree with what you said about, it's about, developing these processes initially, making sure they're ready. I know we've had some projects with public sector when they're getting a new technology that the first stage is, discussing, which software is right for them, why, what they would need to do to adapt to their, internal software, things like that, the actual preparation stage. I think a lot of people try to skip that because it's not like flattering, it's not fun, but it's important. You have to prepare if you're going to implement something new. And so I think that's a big portion that, at least for us, that we try to do is, especially when it's a new technology, is, and it's usually in the contract anyways, that will help them initially, prep, make sure they choose the right one. Obviously, they make the choice, but, we give them the choices and discuss the pros and cons. And then, discuss, policies and things that they might need to implement, and then go from there.
All these tactics you're talking about are not new.
Not
We've
at all.
been recommending them to our customers for years. Go back and do your homework. Check all the boxes. Get everything in line. Then you'll be AI ready. Then you'll be set for your pilot.
Yeah, but that's not fun.
It's not fun. Who wants to do all of that?
Right. I highly agree with what we're talking about and the direction we're going, because customers need to understand that it's first investment, not profit. And I feel as though the current climate is that profit, stage where we're moved to AI because of profitability, but it's not there yet. It's more of investment rather than profitability. So I think probably in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be ready for profitability if we are ready to do the investment. So if I had a client that came in and said, "Oh, we have this, and it's going to cost so much, it's going to cut down so much on our costs and this and that," I would say, slow down, slow down. It's probably a better approach for you to think of it as an investment where you get your money's worth in the next 3 to 5 years versus immediately. And I think that's the challenge, because as a business owner, I'm constantly thinking about profitability.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so when AI comes with all the bells and whistles, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. This is great. We're going to be profitable. We're going to be more profitable, you know. And the challenge is to say, wait, slow down, hold on to your horses. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. So I think that a steady learning, researching, and while AI has been around for some time, we haven't seen exposure at this magnitude. So there are a lot of areas that we're exposing now that we haven't exposed before. And so we just have to be more responsible. So I guess responsibility is a good thing.
Again,
right?
don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Take your time.
Yes.
Educate yourself. Educate your people. Make a plan.
You know, that's one thing that Steve Jobs continuously talked about, and I love his approach. He would use old technology to outperform new technology because he would optimize the processes and he would engineer for those processes rather than jump on the latest bandwagon and then get somewhere. This is another pure example of where we need to be smart. We need to understand the ramifications if this were to go wrong. You know, like biases. I'm not aware of my biases. You know, I might be aware of some exposed biases, but not all of them.
No.
Right? And so just considering that, it should be a red flag, you know, for me to want to jump on and, you know, embark on something that, you know, could be disastrous, not only for me, but for a whole bunch of people. Just as a platform, because we're an e-commerce platform, the wrong move we make for one customer equals to all of our customers, not just one. So that's an area that I think that a Apple approach of, you know, it's okay for us to allow technology to prove itself over time. And then, you know, filter out the good and dump the bad. Learn about what, as humans, we're incapable of and implement those incapabilities, you know, with AI, or improve those incapabilities with AI. And then the capabilities that we have that AI doesn't have, and let's guard those and not, you know, fully lose control of.
I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up your takeaways from this.
Yes.
Can you reach across? Can you do
Cheers.
it?
All right.
What are your major takeaways, Skaar? Last messages for the folks here.
I think AI currently is in the exact stage you brought it up, the .com bubble. I mean, I was one when it happened, but, you know, read about it, learned about it. So I think it's very similar when any type of new technology comes out, where, you know, it's been worked on for a long time, so you've seen it some places but don't realize what it is. Then, boom, mainstream. So everyone wants to hop in, but they don't realize, like we talked about, you know, preparation, all those different things, all the bad stuff that could happen. And then as it slowly gets, you know, more and more, it gets refined, people can truly understand what you can do with it, and it becomes mainstream. It happened with websites. It happened with apps on, you know, mobile phones and different things like that. Everyone wanted an app. So I think it's going to be the same thing here. I just think this is to a bigger magnitude because of how seemingly radical of a technology shift this is, or potentially could be. You know, AI is something, you know, you saw in sci-fi. You didn't actually really think it could be true. So, you know, we thought we would have flying cars by now, but, you know, AI is close enough soon. So I think that it's going to follow the same patterns. And eventually, you know, next few years, it's going to, you know, smooth out to, you know, people understand how to use it to a certain degree. And then over time after that, it's going to get optimized. And then from there, who knows what the next technological jump is going to be.
Right.
So
Nailed it, dude. Yes. Fine words. Thank you.
Cheers, my friend.
And my final words are, if I have a suggestion, create a center of excellence in your company for AI. You probably already have a group of forward thinkers, those that are really savvy, that love staying on the edge, that are naturally doing their own research
Right.
about AI and about technology. So tap that group, cultivate them, activate them, create a space for them where they can share information, and whatever platform it is, make that space for them, so where they can upload all types of materials that they find, so that they can feed the leadership layer.
yeah,
When leadership comes time and says, okay, we've checked all our boxes, we've done our homework, we're ready for our pilot, then that center of excellence is already activated and ready to step forward and can start implementing it if they haven't done it already. And you can then measure the success that they have and know whether or not it's ready to roll out to the rest of the organization. Center of excellence. That's my last tip.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. We can drink to all of that. I think we're going to finish off these bottles and wish all of you farewell. Thank you for joining us on our inaugural issue of Bots, Beers, and the Biz. I'm Jason Price.
Skaar Saxena.
Arby Leon. Cheers.
Thank you.